Hello and welcome, my name is NOVARIS and today I would like to speak to you about the Magicka Templar build for the Dragon Bones DLC. So there's a couple of differences between this build and the previous build. The first is the introduction of a new set called the Zaan set. So it's a monster set available in the Scalecaller Peak dungeon. That's just with this DLC. I'll go over the rest of the gear setup as well in the rest of the video. I'm also opting with a Dark Elf for this patch. That's not necessarily the best, so if you have a look at other videos on YouTube you might find that High Elf could be better or it could be worse, and it could be situational. Finally, I was wanting to address you guys about the Dps Parses. I've pretty much got a standard for the way they're done, but I had a lot of suggestions from you about using the Apprentice Mundus stone and also not using poisons for those parses. So I've added that into the Dps Parses section, but I'll also cover the Dps Parses, gear setup, champion points, skill points, and then finally the rotation. Okay, so let's briefly talk about the gear setup side of things. At the moment I'm also running the Apprentice Mundus Stone and Clockwork Citrus Filet, but I was using the Lover for some of those tests. On the front bar I'm running the Asylum's Perfected Inferno Staff. It's a very powerful set because it works every second cast of Force Pulse or Crushing Shock. I get the Burning, Chilled and Concussed status effects. On the back bar I'm running the Maelstrom's Inferno Staff. It's infused because there's more single target damage, but it actually also debatably does more in AoE because of the enchantment. I'm also on the body wearing 2 pieces of Zaan. Unfortunately I don't have the head in the correct weight, but this is a new set. It's the set that's available in Scalecaller Peak, and as you can see the second piece gives you quite a lot of damage and it builds up, so as long as you don't break that beam it's going to do a lot of damage. I'm using 5 pieces of mechanical acuity, and the 5th piece means that we get 100% critical chance for 5 seconds every 18 seconds. I'm also running 3 pieces of Moondancer. This is preferable when you have higher DPS over willpower, because the 3rd piece bonus for the 5% damage does a lot more. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the skills. So in the front bar at the moment I'm using Purifying Light. It's a high single target damage dot, so basically as soon as I apply this it means that any damage that I do while this is up is reflected back, and eventually the damage that you get back is significant. So it's 22,000 damage that we get back. So it's a very valuable skill, and we have that on front bar because it scales. Also Vampire's Bane, this will give us some spell critical and major prophecy. We've got Force Pulse on the front bar, which works very well in conjunction with the Asylum's staff, both imperfect and perfected. I also have Sun Shield here, but the main reason that I have Sun Shield is because it's an Adric Spear ability, which means we benefit from the Piercing Spear passive. Yeah, so also on the front bar we have Radiant Oppression, which has been fixed to basically that scales with the destructive staff passive as well. The ultimate we have here is Shooting Star, so we benefit from the Magicka Controller passive in the Mages Guild. We also use that in a DPS test because we can't use the Destruction Staff ultimate twice. So in the back bar I have Blazing Spear. It's a very strong AoE and dot, but it's also an Adric Spear ability. I also use Blockade of Fire. So the main purpose behind this is to get more damage behind our light and heavy attacks. We also do 20% more damage to burning enemies. So in a trial it's very useful. I also have Channeled Focus here. The main reason behind using Channeled Focus is for Magicka Sustain, and we also have Rearming Trap. That's going to help with our sustain again. It's a free skill, and it gives us minor force as well, so we get 10% more damage on critical. I have Harness Magicka here, but in some of the tests you have to drain for yourself, so I also use Elemental Drain. And for the back bar ultimate I have Fiery Rage, which is a very strong AoE, the strongest AoE in the game. Okay, so I'm running 56 points into Elfborn, 56 points into Elemental Expert, and 22 points into Spell Erosion. I'm also running 66 points into Master at Arms. This is just because we don't need as much points in Thaumaturge because we're not using the Exploiter bonus. The rest of the CP here, it depends on which trial you're doing, so you can use this CP, but you might want to change a few things. It's not set in stone. I'll also put all of this in the description below the video as well. So the final section of the video is the rotation. I've made a note here for anybody wanting to take a screenshot, or maybe if they want to pause the video and take a note. This is the rotation that I would use for a self-drain test. So I use my drain and rune focus for sustain, my AoEs and rearming trap. This time round I do 4 force pulses, and then the next time round I use elemental drain and I do 3 force pulses. I'm using a light attack between each attack. This time I use rune focus and rearming trap, which means I can only do 2 force pulses on the front bar. And now I can do 3 because I've just used drain. And again this is going to be 2 because I'll use rune focus and rearming trap. So 1, 2. That process is repeated until we get the shooting star ultimate ready. Okay, so the shooting star ultimate should be ready this time round. We replace one of the force pulses with the shooting star, put down rearming trap, and use radiant oppression. So thank you very much for watching my videos, and